पहला मेरा ये सवाल है, बहुत सवाल है जो शायद बहुत से मेरे जो मीडिया के दोस्त हैं, मैं आई कंसिडर माई सेल्फ मेंबर ऑफ द मीडिया माई सेल्फ, ये पूछना चाहेंगे, ये पहली फिल्म है आपकी बहुत सालों में जिसमें YRF का लोगो नहीं है, ये कैसे हुआ?
तो जनवरी का मंथ था 2021 और 2020 21 तो निखिल का फोन आया and I was little shocked because Nikhil normally we don't talk with each other on the phone. We bumped into each other many a times. हम बहुत बार मिले, कभी ऑस्ट्रेलिया में मिले, कभी कोई फिल्म फेस्टिवल में मिले और ऐसे मतलब मिलते रहते थे, बट वी नॉट रियली इन टच ऑन द फोन. तो निखिल का जब फोन आया तो आई वाज लाइक अच्छा लेट मी टेक द कॉल, व्हाट इज निखिल टू से समथिंग न्यू. तो निखिल ने फ़ोन करके सीधा सीधा बोला कि रानी आई हैव द स्क्रिप्ट एंड आई थिंक देयर इज नोबडी एल्स हू कैन डू इट बट यू. सो आई सेड ओके, सो व्हाट इज द स्टोरी. सो ही जस्ट नरेटेड मी अ वन लाइन अबाउट दिस रियल इंसिडेंट. ही सेड कि ये कहानी जो मैं प्रोड्यूस कर रहा हूँ ये रियल लाइफ इंसिडेंट से इंस्पायर करके हम फिल्म बना है. और ऐसे अच्छा तो क्या स्टोरी है. तो जब निखिल ने मुझे जिस्ट बोला कि एक माँ के दोनों बच्चे एक कंट्री के अथॉरिटीज़ ने कॉन्फिस्केट कर लिए हैं, तो मुझे एक्चुअली लगा कि निखिल मजाक कर रहा है. तो मैंने बोला ऐसे कैसे हो सकता है, हो ही नहीं सकता, मतलब व्हाट आर द बेसिस, चार्जेस क्या थे. तो जब उन्होंने चार्जेस बताए तो दोज वर ऑल थिंग्स दैट वी हैव ग्रोन अप विथ, विच इज़ अ कल्चर, कि हाथ से खाना खिलाना या साथ में सुलाना बिस्तर पर बच्चों को अप टू अ सर्टेन एज, फिर काला टीका लगाना. तो ये सब चीज़ें जब निखिल ने मुझे बोला तो मैं काफ़ी शॉक हो गई और मैंने बोला अच्छा ठीक है निखिल आप स्क्रिप्ट भेजिए एंड आई रीड द स्क्रिप्ट. बट मैं इतनी मतलब इमोशनली चार्ज हो गई सुन के, तो आफ्टर आई केप्ट द फोन मैंने गूगल करना शुरू कर दिया एंड आई वेंट टू द रियल स्टोरी. एंड जब मैंने पूरा पढ़ा आई वॉज रियली स्टन्ड और मुझे लगा कि ये फिल्म में किस तरह से स्क्रीन प्ले में बन के आएगा, क्योंकि कभी कभी कहानियाँ अच्छी होती है लेकिन स्क्रीन प्ले फॉर्मेट में एक फिल्म में शायद निखर के नहीं आती एक स्टोरी. तो मुझे जानना था कि स्क्रिप्ट कैसी होगी. तो स्क्रिप्ट जब मैंने पढ़ा मुझे स्क्रिप्ट भी अच्छा लग गया. तो मैंने सोचा कि अच्छा ठीक है मैं निखिल को ज़रा सा तोड़ मोल के देखती हूँ कि वो कितना मुझे चाहता है फिल्म के लिए. तो मैंने निखिल को बोला कि निखिल देखो मेरे साथ काम करना आपको बहुत डिफ़िकल्ट होगा, क्योंकि अभी मैं एक माँ हूँ और मैं दूसरे एक्टरों की तरह ज़्यादा घंटे नहीं दे सकती आपको, क्योंकि मेरी जो प्रायोरिटी है वो मेरी बच्ची है. तो आप एज ए प्रोड्यूसर आप शायद वो मतलब झेल नहीं पाएंगे जो मेरे खुद के पति झेलते हैं. तो निखिल ने बोला नहीं जो तुम्हारा टाइम है हम उसी टाइम पे काम करेंगे. ऐसे अच्छा निखिल तो हर चीज़ पे हाँ बोले जा रहे हैं, मुझे मौका ही नहीं दे रहा है कि मैं ना बोल सकूं. तो फिर मैंने बोला अच्छा ठीक है पर तुम मुझे मेरे पति की तरह प्यार दे पाओगे. तो निखिल ने बोला मैं तो कुछ होता के टाइम से प्यार करता हूँ. तो बोला ठीक है, तो वो भी ठीक है,
तब से भी झेलते ही आ रहे.
तो फिर ऑन अ मोर सीरियस नोट आई थिंक निखिल हैज़ ऑलवेज स्टूड फॉर क्वालिटी. Like what films that he's produced till now, I think he has a very good reputation in the industry, that he takes up films which, you know, make a difference, and he takes films which have a very hard-hitting subject, and he's not like he's quite fearless in terms of being a producer. Sometimes you can get into a lot of trouble working in films that are slightly controversial, but Nikhil, I've seen, has never shied away from producing films like that. And I knew that technically he's going to be fantastic. So obviously the way he'll make the film will have a certain quality, it will have a taste. So for me it was a no-brainer completely. And then of course Nikhil said that the director is Ashima. Ashima is somebody who I've seen in YRF for so many years, because she's done her first film, Mere Dad Ki Maruti, with Yashraj Films. So I've met her a couple of times, I've bumped into her. And it's always been a very nice chat with her, though I've never worked with her before and we had nothing in common. But she was always very warm, and she's been always this bright girl that I've seen. And when she decided to become a single parent, she came to see me. And I thought that that was a very brave move from her part, that she decided to become a mum all by herself, which was a very brave thing. And I remember being very proud of her in my heart, and I was like, hats off to this girl for doing something like that. Because being a single parent in a country like Bombay is tough. So I already had a lot of respect for her as a mother, as a girl, as a person who's trying to make it on her own in the city. And when I spoke with Ashima, I realized that she's very, very passionate about the story, because she's spoken to Sagarika, she has done so many calls with her, she was very involved with the subject. So I think when a director is so passionate about a story, I think that love translates into the film. So for me, I think it was just that Nikhil, I've known because he was there from the first time I met you, Karan. So for me, it was just an extension of, I would say, Dharma and Yashraj. So MA is actually just an extension, and that is what he promised me before I started the film. He says, Rani, you know, I've been under Karan, I've been under Adi, I've worked with them, so you won't feel a difference. And you're right.
This is Chatterjee, and that's what you became. When you see the film, I didn't see Rani Mukherjee in one frame. I just saw Mrs. Chatterjee. So these two, again, I reiterate, the first part was like, did I meet Sagarika? Did you meet Sagarika a lot? And secondly, how did you infuse the Bengali nuances into your character?
So I have not yet met Sagarika.
Huh?
Yeah.
What?
I have not yet met Sagarika.
You've never met Sagarika?
No, I've never met Sagarika.
This is a shock.
Not spoken
You've
to
not
her.
spoken to her, you've not met her.
No. Because I think as an actor, what I wanted to bring to the table is something that I thought would be my interpretation of Mrs. Chatterjee's character. I didn't want too much of a baggage because she's very much there. So I didn't want people to find similarities or say that this is similar, that is similar. For me, the story of Mrs. Chatterjee was about Mrs. Chatterjee, and I had to play it not knowing that this has actually happened. I had to play it cinematically for this film. I knew the emotions she went through because I sat with Ashima, I think 1,000,000 times over the script, and I went through it with her and what her emotions were, in terms of what Sagarika's emotions were. Ashima had a lot of tapes that she had recorded of Sagarika chatting with her, so I went through a lot of those tapes where I started to understand and I grabbed what her emotions are, because that was what was very important for me for the character, that I need to understand her emotional graph because of what she's actually been through. Because it was a struggle, it was frustration, it was anger, it was the loneliness, it was the mother's love, it was so many things. So I wanted to know what headspace was Sagarika in during that period and what is she today, and what has this journey of this fight made Sagarika into today. So I went through that, but when it actually came to performing and becoming the character, the only person that came to my mind was my mom. And I have no qualms to say that I have just taken my mother and put her into Mrs. Chatterjee. Because my mom is raised...
I saw that. That's why I asked you. I saw that. I was like, this is Krishna auntie, like she's portraying her mother.
So actually for me, someone who's so connected to her roots, there is nobody else that I know more than my mother. My mother got married to my dad 50 years ago, and she came to Bombay. She's born and brought up in Calcutta. She got married when she was 21. But she is such a Bengali in her, the way she is as a person, the way she eats, the way she talks. Even when she, after 50 years of being in Bombay, when she speaks in Hindi, she sounds like a Bengali. When she speaks in English, she sounds like a Bengali. So I think if you're once a Bengali in West Bengal, born and brought up in West Bengal, you'll always be that. And whenever you speak to anybody from Calcutta, West Bengal, you'll see them having a flair of that Bengali accent, which never leaves them. And I think that is spectacular for me because my mom, living in Bombay, has not been able to leave her roots like away. You know, she's still very connected to her roots. And whatever impression I had of my mom growing up, the way she is, Bengali tigress, the way she has fed us with her hands, you know, the way she used to talk to us, the way she has given us love. I think it was, when I read the character of Mrs. Chatterjee, for me it was all along like my mother. Like I was imagining my mother, what would happen if somebody would have taken Raja and me away from her. And I could imagine my mom going completely nuts.
You know, it takes me back to the moment when I saw the film and I was so shaken and moved and triumphant, of course, in the end. I have an adat, you know, I have twins at home and I'm a single parent. Hamesha I say, you know, whenever my children are looking very pretty, I say karate ka laga do.
Yes.
My daughter has a habit sometimes that she doesn't eat and I have to make her physically eat with my hands. We say Saturday ko nazar utara. It's embedded in our culture. And when I saw the film and I reached home, and Yash and Ruhi was standing there, and I just had tears in my eyes looking at them because I'd just seen Mrs. Chatterjee versus Norway, and I was like, what if one day somebody just comes और मेरे बच्चे को घर से ले जाए? क्योंकि हमारी ट्रेडिशन, हमारी इनहेरेंट कल्चर, हमारी पेरेंटिंग इंस्टिंक्ट जो है, उनकी वजह से कोई अगर हमारे बच्चों को ले जाए, and it takes me to my favorite. I think this is your best performance to date. I have to say it on record. It is your best performance to date. And I hope the world notices what I have. And I'm sure the world will on the 17th of March. That moment when it's decided in court कि आप तभी मिल पाओगे अपने बच्चों जब वो 18 साल के हो जाए. The way you react in that moment, it's like it took me back to a moment, a YRF film called Mashal, where Dilip Kumar bangs on the taxi and says, you know, like stop, he needs a car because of his wife who's dying. That time, that scene had given me gooseflesh. And the second time, in my cinematic memory, where I got gooseflesh, is when I saw your reaction, where literally you were sliding, your feet were sliding on the floor while they're trying to hold you back. What was the prep, or did you just go with your gut in that moment, taking and internalizing the circumstance?
I think for me, Mrs. Chatterjee versus Norway is a very, very personal film in that sense, because I think every parent, every mother, every father, every person who has a mother will connect with this story like it hits you in your gut. Like for me to bring about Sagarika's emotions in the film, what she must have been through, was a huge responsibility. Mother is feeling. I wanted everybody in the audience to feel that pain, to feel that sense of loss. Because if I as a mother had to put myself in that place, I don't think I had the courage to even think that. Like if I had to put myself in that place of Sagarika, I don't think I can even fathom that idea of like Adira being away from me. Like I can't fathom it. So I had to put my mother in my place, like I had to think of my mom, how she would behave if somebody took me and Raja away. Because I didn't have the courage to think about Adira.
Yeah.
Honestly speaking, it was beyond for me to even go through that pain. Because it is a pain which is numbing, like a mother can literally have a heart attack and die.
Yeah.
It's that kind of a pain for a parent. So for me, every scene in the film was, I think, how do I put it? It's not a scene that I performed. I think I've lived those scenes. You know, I've lived those shots.
It's very evident.
Yeah,
that particular scene when they're dragging you and you're literally sliding your feet on the floor because you don't want to move from there. I just felt that at some point, every actor goes through that feeling on a certain moment of a film where you stop acting and you start living that moment.
So for me, it was.
And I thought that's what you did throughout. You lived Mrs. Chatterjee. In fact, to the extent that it may have taken you a while to get that character out of your system, am I right? Or did you switch off?
No, I think I've still not switched off from the film.
Yeah.
Because I think each time I hear people talk about the film, or if I see the promo of the film, or if I watch the film, for me it's always Sagarika in my head. And it's about all the mothers or parents who are separated from their children for whatever reason. and that makes me really sad. And I feel the representation of this film, or the reason why this film is actually made, is because there has to be a bigger purpose for it, more than even a box office success. The purpose of this film is bigger than a box office success because it needs to create awareness.
Yeah.
It needs to create awareness amongst people who don't know about these cases, who don't know about these stories which are happening day in and day out outside our country. There are numerous parents who are suffering this, whether Indian, whether of other nationalities, but they are suffering this. And for me, I just hope that this film can bring about a certain awareness with the right people who have the right power to be able to do something about it.
Which brings me to you, Nikhil. When you announced this film, based on the true story of Sagarika Chakrabarti, maybe it was a footnote in history, but the authorities who need to know knew the story. Did you get any kind of, was there any backlash? Is there any kind of backlash from Norway? Has there been any kind of people reaching out and saying, why are you telling this story? Because it does portray that aspect of the country in a negative light. So did you at all receive any kind of backlash from anywhere?
No, none, nothing. In fact, we
So
decided,
any plans for Norway?
yeah, so in fact we decided to shoot, we actually preempted, or we assumed, Kanan, we assumed that Norway will not want us to shoot in this film over there.
Yes.
So it was lockdown, it was pandemic, the pandemic was just getting over, lockdown was just getting over. We were supposed to shoot in March, it kept moving on till August, I remember, and we finally went and shot it in Estonia. When we were going to shoot in Estonia, everything is set. We got a letter from the Norwegian High Commission saying that because that was the first communication that came, saying that, Norway versus Chatterjee versus Norway, we are going to Estonia to shoot, Rani Mukherjee's first film outside Yashra. That usual kind of press note came out, and the Norwegian High Commission calls us up and says that why are you not shooting in Norway? Right? Because we are completely, we have freedom of expression.
My second shock moment of this interview, one is you never met Sagarika, and one is that Norway themselves has reached out, where the title very explicitly says Mrs. Chatterjee versus Norway. Well, great. I mean, I think, as I said, this film is much more than just an emotional, beautiful, cinematic experience. It's also an emotion and a movement in many ways, but more than anything else, I'd like the audiences to know this, and every की जो खासियत है वो है कनेक्टिविटी. वो आप इस फिल्म से जो भी चाहो, आप जो भी हो, आप माता हो, पिता हो, भाई हो, बहन हो, जो भी हो, कोई तो रिश्ता आपका होगा, वो आप इमीडिएटली इस फिल्म से रिलेट कर पाओगे, क्योंकि ऐसा लगता है कि कोई आपका अपना आपसे छीन के जब चला जाता है फॉर नो रीजन, नो फॉल्ट, there's nothing worse than that. So I just feel like ये वो फीचर फिल्म है जो deeply connect करेगा to every member of an audience, everywhere, every single place.